What's up out there, my friends? Blue with you. I'm going to talk about how to survive prison. I have 5 penitentiary numbers myself, so I know what's going on. A lot of people get this wrong. Don't forget to like and subscribe, my friends. The first thing that's going to happen to you when you go to prison is that you're going to the reception center. They're going to come and get you early in the morning in the county jail. The cops are going to take you to a bullpen and count you, make sure they've got the right people, make sure they have everyone. They're going to take your property, put it on a bus with you or a van or a truck, and drive you to the penitentiary reception center. You're going to be probably handcuffed and looped together with someone on that bus. It's an uncomfortable ride, my friends. And once you get there, you get off the bus with that person. They'll take your cuffs off, your leg irons, and they're going to take a real close look at you. They might ask you to open your hands to see if you're bringing anything in. They know that people get things in every single time. So they're going to take a look at you. They're going to take you into this room and strip you out butt naked. They're going to have you run your fingers through your hair. They're going to examine you and make sure that you don't have weapons or drugs or anything that you shouldn't have. And from there, you're going to go and get your hair cut and get your boots or your shoes, depending, and get your whites, your socks, your underwear, your t-shirts, and your prison blues. This is going to be a real long day in the reception center receiving area. And this is where you should be watching if you're trying to stay safe, my friends. You should be examining the people around you to try to figure out who is going to be a danger to you. There's probably going to be someone there, maybe a couple people, that talk the whole time. They've been to prison many times. They're going to know just what's going on, and that is oftentimes a person that you don't want to associate with because they're a problem. They're one of the problems inside the system. And you also, I recommend, don't just be quiet. There's this misconception, my friends, that if you go to a real prison and you just mind your business and stay to yourself, that somehow you aren't going to be victimized. That is the opposite of the truth. You see, there are a lot of victims, and that quiet guy thing does not work in a real joint. You will be the first person victimized. I've been in some joints that were so crazy that people were being jumped on for extortion as soon as they stepped on the yard of their parent institution. Before they could even get to the housing unit to see where they were going to be staying, people were on their ass immediately. But that's another thing. When you get to that reception center, you're going to go through everything you have to go to finally get ready to go to the orientation block, where you're going to be locked in a cell 23 or 24 hours a day. This is a level 3 setup, my friends. These reception centers are. You're going to be in a cell because they've got people coming in for murder. They've got people coming in for everything from rape to simple drug possession. And they don't know how much time you're doing or where you should do it. So they're trying to figure out what your case entails so they know what parent institution to put you in. So you're going to go to the orientation block, and it's going to be a rough week or so while you're in there. Probably no phone calls, no rec. You're only walking over to the chow hall and back. You're going to be locked in that cell with someone, my friends. It could be anyone from a serial killer to some kind of thief or whatever the person's in there for, okay? It could be bad, it could be good. And there are a lot of problems that can go on when you are sharing a cell with another person. If they lock you in there with some type of maniac, what are you going to do? It's not only badass motherfuckers that are going to want to treat you badly, right? You could be in there with somebody that has serious mental health problems. There are so many people that slip through the cracks that should have went to a hospital that are in the prison because no one gives a damn. And if you're in a cell with someone like that, here's an anecdote for you, my friends. I had a cellmate who was originally from Somalia. His name was Jabril, and he was a Muslim guy, and he was a very unusual guy. He was cool in many ways, but he was also very bizarre. He would wash his hands in the toilet, and he would squat on the toilet in this really unusual way. And it was really crazy. Had somebody else been his cellmate, he might have got fucked up for some of the shit that he was doing. But he was peaceful, so I saw past that because I can handle quite a bit. But anyway, my friends, you don't know who's going to be in that cell with you. There are constantly predators seeking out prey in the penitentiary system. A lot of times a person goes to jail and they go to an easy dorm, they have an easy time, they play cards, whatever, right? But they find out once they get to that prison that the shit is real. There are people doing their entire lives in these places. The vibe is totally different. And what I want to recommend for you, my friends, is if you have money, when you go into that joint and you're not an established prisoner within the system that you're in, don't start spending your money. I've seen so many people get to that joint. They got a cellie that they thought he was cool or whatever, and they go to that store and they come back with $50 worth of shit. And as soon as they hit that block, their ass is either getting their ass whooped or they're getting blown down on and their shit took. Okay, so what you want to do with your money, my friends, here's a primary point. Don't go to the store hard when you get there. If you absolutely have to get some time on the phone or to get some envelopes to reach out, or you need something particular like a health product, go and get it, but do not go to that store because everyone's watching on store day to see who has shit, and you will not be able to hide the fact that you have money if you fuck up. I think it can go without saying, but don't take any gifts from anyone. People love giving gifts as an excuse to extort someone later on. This really does happen, and so many people make this mistake. And what goes along with this, my friends, is don't gamble and don't borrow anything from the store man. Certainly not until you're established and respected and you know what's going on. You see, they have these things in prison called the store man. There'll be a guy there that's respected and established who has food and other things that will let you borrow something up front for 2 of those things back on store day. And everyone has an income in prison because you'll have some kind of job there where you get paid $15 or $20 a month or whatever it is. So I might have a food item that's worth $1. You come to me as the store man and I say, here it is up front, but I want 2 of them back on store day. You see how this works, my friend? And if you don't pay that shit on time, you could have a real serious problem depending on who that store man is. You might owe him 5 things. When you finally get the money, you might owe him $20. When you get that money, this is a real serious trap with people that are weak and they can't take a little hunger, or they need some weed or tobacco or whatever. So many storemen have made a literal fortune off of extorting people in prison, and it's really something that you want to avoid until you're firmly aware of how everything works. You've got to keep in mind, my friends, that there are gangs inside these places. There are going to be several or more gangs, and one of the primary ways that a gang gets money in there, because many of them don't have people sending in cash, is they're going to look to extort your ass. So imagine this, my friends. I was at a joint in Ohio called Lake Erie. This was some level 2 shit, okay? Big open dorms with hundreds of people in the room. This was a particularly wild prison. We were always on the news. The news would come across and it's another Lake Erie story about someone getting their head bashed in with a lock or stabbed or whatever. There's nowhere that you can run in a prison, my friends, you see. Even in the county jail, maybe they can put you in a special pod, a mental health pod or whatever, if you're just scared to death, right? But once you get to that prison, you are going to have to deal with whatever you get into. What you want to do is be very careful, my friends, about who you associate with. You don't want to associate with people that are being victimized already. If you have a concern about being victimized, do not associate with those weak people. Allow them to be at the bottom of the penitentiary hierarchy. You want to find some people that are cool, that have similar interests, that are not being victimized, and that are not going to lead you into trouble. I have seen so many times where a guy befriends another guy that gets himself into fucked up situations all the time, and he pulls his new friend into that fucked up situation, and shit can get extremely serious in these places. I have literally seen people being tortured every single day. When you're in the reception center, it can be kind of hard to get into a good position. When you're in a parent institution, you can try to make your way into a better housing unit. Say the old man's housing unit. If you're an older person, they usually have housing units for people that are 30 or 35 or 40 and up. And that can be the place to be if you're an older person. It's a much safer and relaxed environment than, say, the adult basic education dorm, because that's almost always the worst dorm in any prison block. What you want to do is be very cautious and very alert and aware of who's around you, and avoid at all times those fucked up ass people. And you have to be ready to throw down at any time. What you don't want to happen is for someone to punk your ass in front of some other people, because you'll be known as sweet as fuck from that very moment forward. You've got to be ready at any time to just throw hands. And this is a very sophisticated situation, my friends, because you could end up beating someone's ass and get a lot of respect for that. I have had that happen to me, and the respect level was overwhelming. I whooped this guy in the medical dormitory one day, and it turned out that there was no room for us in segregation, so they had to let us go back to our respective blocks. By the time I made it back to my block, I was like some kind of celebrity in that block because of what happened at medical. But, my friends, there's the opposite of that. You could end up beating someone's ass that's a gang leader or for some other reason established and respected, and that could be a very serious problem for you. So you always have to be willing to weigh out the positives and the negatives. It is true that there are situations when you have to throw down no matter who the person is or what's going on. And you've got to keep in mind, my friend, stabbings in this place are a fairly regular occurrence. So what if you whoop someone's ass and they come and stab your ass up while you're asleep? What if there's a concoction, my friends, in prison where you take a bowl and you dump baby oil in it, and you mix 50-50 with water and stir it up, and you take it out to the microwave, and you set it to boiling while your enemy is asleep. Then you take that boiling baby oil and water, and you dump it in their face while they are asleep. And that baby oil makes it so it doesn't come off. They're burning up, and they can't get it off. It's crazy, my friends. And another common thing is to lock someone with a sock. You take your locker lock, because you'll be given a box when you get into prison, this big iron box that has a lock. And you put that lock in a sock, and you swing that son of a bitch. And for example, you could crack somebody, or you could come up to someone who's asleep. Imagine if you piss a gang off, or you piss a couple of guys off that aren't in a gang, for example, and two of them start locking your ass while you're asleep. They could literally beat your ass to death if they wanted to in that situation. So what you've got to be prepared to do at all times, my friends, if there's any point that I'm trying to get across to you is that you've got to always be willing to judge a situation, consider the different ways you could go about responding or not responding, and weigh what you consider to be the positives and the cons to every situation. There's not always a simple piece of advice that I can give you that's going to work for every situation. Do you whoop the gang leader's ass because he punked you, or do you not? Do you stab a motherfucker up because they robbed your box, or do you not? It all depends on how much time you're doing and where your position is in the hierarchy and who your enemy is and who else is involved. There's so much politicking going on that if you get good at understanding the politicking, you're going to be much more likely to survive and even thrive. While you're in the reception center, you're trying to be cool and chill and affiliated with people that aren't a problem, that aren't going to get you in any trouble or cause you any problems, but who are also not being extorted and beat on. You want to associate yourself properly, and that's a very, very important thing to do. After you're done in the reception block, you're going to go to a regular block where you start getting recreation. You go to the gym, for example. You make phone calls. You get inside rec. You see, these places, these reception centers, are cell blocks. They're kind of like a maximum security situation, and you're locked down a lot of the time, which is one of the reasons level 3 can be so painful. When you're in that regular housing unit, there's going to be much more interaction than there was in the reception block. So you just want to try to be cool and properly associated and willing to stand up but not being stupid. You don't want to walk around with your chest stuck out unless you're at the top of the hierarchy. And you don't want to walk around looking like you're some kind of victim, because you will go to the bottom of the hierarchy if you do that, and you do not want to be there. So there you go, my friends. I could go on about this for quite a while. There's so many things that are involved in the prison politics, in the everyday life, and the social aspects of everything. I'm going to make this a series. Check out the next installment. I'll put a link in up top about how to survive your parent institution, which is a different setup than the reception center. But if you follow my advice here, friends, I think that it's a fairly decent chance that you will be okay if you're competent and you're alert and you're always judging and being careful and making good decisions. That is key to surviving prison. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for upcoming shit on prison stories and how to survive. I'll see you next time, my friends.